Hey guys, welcome to today's review. We're going to be taking a look at this Oris PPX, the Pro Pilot X with the caliber 115 movement. Very interesting watch. And I think Oris is really kind of flexing their muscles, so to speak, and making a statement about what they're able to do, because they're most well known for, watches like the one I'm wearing today, the Diver 65 Bico. Very beautiful, traditional, affordable, mid-level to affordable. And that's what a lot of guys know and love about the brand, but they can play at the next stage as well, as evidenced by this PPX. So I'll begin by placing some dimensions here on the side of the screen and kind of talking about the way this wears and fits, because it's interesting. It's a large watch coming in almost 44 millimeters in diameter, but it's constructed of grade 5 titanium, so it has a nice light weight to it. So my wrists are 7.25 inches in circumference, and I will admit I do love the larger size. I prefer a larger sport watch personally. And this one carries just enough presence to where I really enjoy the statement on wrist, but also enough lightweight nature of that titanium to where it kind of disappears a little bit. I love the fully articulating bracelet here with each link being held together with screws, and how all of the brushing just takes a nice amount of light play. So you're getting reflections off the center portion, off the angled side links. It ends up being very visually dynamic, very beautiful. And if you look at the clasp here, this is one of the things that helps tie in to the Pro Pilot series, with the buckle kind of in design of a seatbelt that you would find on an aircraft. You'll even notice the lift inscription there, which is really nice to see. Now let me show you how it operates. You simply pull this and you get a nice spring-loaded action here. I really like seeing that, and you'll find the milled out clasp there. And let's take a look at this large open sapphire back where you can see the caliber 115. Now obviously the star of the show is going to be this massive barrel wheel that carries a proprietary alloy where the 240 hours of power reserve is stored, or the 10 days of power reserve. You can see it here through the back, and I like how large it is in relation to the relatively small balance you can see down by the 6 o'clock position on the back of this watch. So that all looks very sharp, and if we turn the watch over and look at it through the face here, you guys can see how Oris has displayed the things that they're most proud of. The barrel wheel is still very prominent behind the branding, the Oris branding, and it's interesting that as you wind the movement, let me unthread the crown. We have 100 meters of water resistance and a screw down crown. As you're winding it, you can see the mainspring, how it tightens. That is just so cool. And then as the watch kind of winds down with the power, you'll notice the spacing gets larger as well. So there's always a different look when you're looking at your wrist, engaging the time. There's always a different look to that mainspring behind the branding. We have a sub-seconds register down there close to the balance, which you guys can see carries some concentric circle texturing, and a BGW9 painted hand there. And I'll give you a night shot where you guys can see the lume application. It's a little bit disappointing on that sub-seconds hand, as well as the regular markings around the chapter ring there. But the hands, there's a nice application of lume. They are very bright and long lasting. Now let's zoom back out and take another look at this. Another prominent feature is the very large crescent shaped power reserve indicator, which you guys can see carries a non-linear scale from 10 down to 0. Now what's interesting about that is Oris is emphasizing when you have less than 3 days of power, you want to notice that, so you can unthread the crown and wind the watch and get that power reserve up. I will say it does take a while to fully wind up to those 10 days. You'll be sitting there for a couple minutes turning the crown, but it's kind of a fun experience if I'm honest, and very impressive to see 240 hours of power reserve there. So I think that's very well done. Oris again is reminding us on what they're proud of here, and that is the length of power reserve, the massive barrel there, and surprisingly the watch is fairly legible for an open work watch. Again, there's a lot of lume here, so the contrast is fairly decent, and I haven't had any issues gauging the time at a glance from this, despite what you may think. You might think that it's just too busy, but if you have poor eyesight or aging eyes, I'd probably go with a different offering, just in full disclosure. Now, what would be negative elements to the watch? I don't think it's price. Some people will say, well, it's just massively overpriced, but I think that's a bit of a short-sighted statement there. We have an original design, very well executed in grade 5 titanium, beautiful with 10 days of power reserve. I don't think this is overpriced at all. In fact, I think Oris is still giving us good value for the price point, like we're used to seeing in watches like the Diver 65 or the Aquas. They bring a lot to the table here. So I don't think it's a price point. The only criticism I have is when you unthread the crown, and I can do my winding, then the next position is a ghost. Oops, there is a ghost position right here where I'm not winding and I'm not setting a date because there is no date mechanism. And then the last position, is the hacking and the time setting. So I don't like the ghost position there. I think Oris is keeping a date option for this in the future, which again would be really nice to see, but it feels a little bit cheap when you're spending $7,000 on a watch. So really that's my only criticism, and I might be nitpicking there. But other than that, I love the attention to detail. I love the turbine texturing on the bezel and how that's translated, flipped on the inside where the chapter ring is. There's some nice symmetry there, how that ties in with the angled sign crown and the texturing on the case back. There really is some nice attention to detail, a great industrial tool-like feel to all the matte finishing and the brushing and the deep tone of the titanium. This is one of the funnest watches that I've been able to have in hand to review. I really thoroughly enjoyed this watch. So where would I love to see Oris go next? I love for them to develop a 3-hand with the date in-house movement so they can kind of get away from the Solitas that they use and really help solidify themselves as a completely independent brand that's not reliant on any other supplier to bring an awesome product to market. So I would like to see that in the future. So I want to thank Brooks of J.Brooks Jewelers for allowing me some time with this, letting me present it to you guys. And check out his website. He does ship outside of Utah. I know he's a local store to me, but if you want to save on some sales tax and get a nice price from an authorized dealer, he's a great person to talk to. So anyways, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch. Reach out with questions, and we'll see you in the next video.